She thought humiliating me in public would put me in my place, and for a second, I almost let her. One hot Saturday, by the pool parking lot, with chlorine in the air and kids dripping on the asphalt, she stepped into my space, lifted her chin, and spat on my shirt. 3 nights later, when I walked into the HOA meeting and took the center seat with a small nameplate that read, "President, the same mouths that gasped at the spit went quiet." And then everything changed. We had only been in Raleigh a couple of weeks. Boxes still breathing dust in the garage. My wife, Monica, still learning which light switch did what our kids, Tyrese and Alana, already finding the park and the best cracks in the sidewalk for chalk art. On paper, the neighborhood looked like peace, tree shade, a gated entrance, the kind of quiet you move for. But even good places have their own weather fronts, and around here, everyone knew the woman who treated the bylaws like scripture. Denise Rowland wasn't on the board, not officially, but she showed up everywhere with that posture that says, "I know what's best," and people gave her space like you do a storm cloud that parks above your house and refuses to move. I noticed the flyers first, a 24-hour parking reminder tucked under our mat, a note about lawn edging before our mower had even made a first pass. Then the emails asking if I had logged my contractor in the system yet, and each one read polite on the surface and sharp underneath. You know what I mean. We laughed it off at dinner. Told ourselves every neighborhood has a Denise, but Monica saw the way folks shifted when she walked by, how phones slipped into pockets, how voices dropped like she collected evidence for sport. The HOA had called me before we moved, said they needed someone with a steady head for budgets, and Conflict asked if I'd accept a midterm appointment once the vote went through. Operations is my world. Logistics processes keeping complicated things honest. And I said yes because it felt like a way to meet people and do right by a place we were going to call home. I didn't plan for the parking lot moment to be my introduction. That morning I was by my black SUV with a clipboard, going over drainage, and stone borders with a contractor named Raymond Son, already heavy courts humming families in flip-flops, crossing with towels and plastic coolers. Denise made a beeline sandals, slapping jaw set. "This lot is for members only," she announced like a siren. "Not for strangers, and not for contractors setting up shop." I turned slowly, kept it measured, because years in finance taught me, calm buys you time. "Ma'am, I live here. Hawthorne Circle. Just moved in last week." She took a step closer instead of backing up. "That's not what I heard. People say you're renting. Renters don't get the same privileges." Raymond stared at his notes, like the numbers might save him. "I said I'm reviewing plans for my property. We'll be out in 10. She jabbed a finger toward my chest, breath short. "Don't talk down to me. I've lived here 18 years. I know who belongs." I felt every eye in the lot crawl over to us teenagers holding their phones like hungry little satellites' parents pausing mid-sip. "Please back up," I said steady. "You're in my space." And then she did it like crossing a line she didn't think counted. The spit hit small and mean, and the whole world went quiet, except for one kid cannonballing behind us. My hands trembled from the insult, more than the shock. "Are you serious right now?" I said, voice sharper than I planned. She folded her arms. "People like you come in and think you can change everything." "Not here." A man in a red polo muttered, "She's gone too far." A woman shook her head, and a teenager whispered, "I got that on video." I took the towel. A neighbor tossed me, wiped my shirt, and heard myself say the words that surprised even me. "You don't know me, but you're about to." By sundown, the clip was everywhere, in group chats next to grocery lists and Facebook threads with 40 comments before dinner, and the opinions came in waves. Some folks said she finally showed what she's always been. Others shrugged. Like spit isn't a salt if it dries, and my phone buzzed with family saying I should press charges. Monica dried her hands on a dish towel and said, "File the complaint." I did. The HOA secretary, Jonathan Pierce, emailed back and asked me to attend Tuesday's meeting, which usually drew a dozen people talking fence heights and pool hours. That night, the clubhouse chairs were full, people lining the walls, ceiling fans losing the battle with the hum in the room. Monica squeezed my hand and told me to be myself, which is code in our house for don't let anger borrow your voice. Denise sat front row, blouse buttoned tight, chin high, eyes pretending not to see me. Jonathan cleared his throat. "First, we'd like to introduce our new president elected earlier this month. Please welcome Mr. Calvin Dunmore." The room shifted, a little intake of breath. A couple of gasps, Denise's face draining like the battery light just came on. I stood, hands on the table, to anchor myself and let the silence do the work. Saturday was supposed to be ordinary, I said, keeping my voice level. It wasn't. I won't relive the details you've already seen, but I will say this. No one in this community should be spat on or humiliated for existing. Not on my watch. A hum of agreement moved through the room. Denise snapped her hand up. "Point of order," she said, smoothing her blouse like it could give her cover. "I overreacted, yes, but I enforce the rules everyone else ignores." He broke policy by using the amenities lot. "Standards protect our property values." A voice from the back cut in. "You spit on him, Denise. We all saw it." Another voice, sharper. "We've put up with your nitpicking for years." I let it breathe, then said, "This isn't about sides. It's about respect. We can keep our standards and still treat each other like neighbors. The point of a community isn't fear, it's belonging. We turn to business because speeches don't fix. Sidewalks, decisions do. The Ramos family asked for a 6-foot fence because their rescue dog treats 4 like a hurdle, and Denise shot back with aesthetic uniformity. But the bylaws in my binder said 6 is allowed with board approval for safety if materials match. We voted 5-1. The couple exhaled like they'd been holding their breath all year. A solar pergola tabled last summer came next. We talked glare setbacks, trim color. Approved with conditions that respected the block. Afterward, while people lingered in the parking lot. Letting relief find a home, Denise cornered me by the door, voice tight. "You humiliated me," she said. "You turned them against me." I leaned back on the table so I wouldn't lean into her. "No, you did that. I just refused to pretend not to see it." She blinked hard. "You won't last. They love you until you cost them something and then they'll eat you alive. They did it to me." I nodded. "If they turn on me, it won't be for disrespect. It'll be because we disagree about something that matters. I can live with that." She stared a beat longer, then walked into the summer dark heels, clicking like a metronome. At home, Tyrese sat on the couch, eyes wide. "Dad, why did she hate us like that?" He asked, voice small. I pulled him close. "Some people see change and panic. Some people confuse control with care. That's on them. What matters is what we do after we've been wronged. We hold people accountable without handing over who we are." He nodded slow. I wanted to yell. "Yeah," I said, smiling a little. "Me too. But yelling doesn't fix anything. Showing up does." In the days that followed, the neighborhood exhaled in increments. People who used to lower their gaze when Denise approached now offered short nods and moved on. More residents waved on my morning runs. An older woman stopped me to say thank you, because her ramp request had sat in someone's inbox for months. The next meeting felt different. Not perfect, just less combative. And folks asked about cracked sidewalks and a flickering security light without bracing for a scolding. Denise tried to rally, sent a long email about standards with her name in bold at the bottom, knocked a few doors, and pulled in a handful of loyalists, and that's fine. She's still a neighbor, not a cartoon. But the grip she had on the culture loosened, and once you've seen another way to live together, it's hard to unsee it. Late one night, I sat in the dark living room with the glow from the stove clock, thinking about my father, who ran a school for 3 decades. He used to say, leadership isn't the loudest voice in the room. It's the voice people trust when everything feels messy. I get it now. This isn't about winning a fight in a parking lot or clapping back on Facebook. It's about showing up calm, steady, fair with receipts, and a tone your kids can be proud of when they ask hard questions before bed. We still say no to things. A neon mailbox that would turn the cul-de-sac into a Vegas wink, a gravel front yard that would flood 2 doors down. And we say yes to things that make sense when you read the actual rules. And remember, they're for people, not trophies. Do I think Denise will ever apologize? I don't know. Weeks after the meeting, we passed on the sidewalk, and she gave me a small nod. And maybe that's all I get. Maybe that's enough for now. Because here's the part that matters. We are not going back to a culture where fear masquerades as respect. We will have standards, and we will have dignity both. And when someone tries to spit on either, the room will know the difference. That's our win. Here's where I leave it to you. Was Denise enforcing rules or hiding behind them? Where's the line between protecting a neighborhood and policing people? Have you ever watched a school, a job, a street turn respect into fear? And what did anyone do that actually changed it? Drop your story in the comments. Tell me where you stand. Push back if you need to. If this hit something true for you, like and subscribe. So these conversations find the people who need them, because communities don't fix themselves. We do together.